Welcome back to this Cover Your Assets CYA video. We're going to discuss SystemD. Now, in order to get the most benefit from CYA, it's best to run the utility multiple times. You want CYA updating your backups / snapshots, whatever you'd like to call them. And who wants to manually do that? I mean, that's annoying, and you'll forget if you have to think, okay, every Monday I need to execute CYA so that it will update the backup. No, that's silly. Instead, we want to schedule this so it's automatic. Now, there are multiple methods to accomplish this. And if you're on, most modern Linuxes, one such method is to use SystemD. Now, if you're on another type of operating system like a BSD-based or Solaris or something like that, you're not going to have SystemD. And there still are a few Linuxes out there that don't use SystemD. The vast majority of the well-known Linuxes now have switched to SystemD. I know that there are some people who don't like SystemD, but I personally don't really have much of an issue with it. There are a few disadvantages, but I think the advantages way outweigh any disadvantages or negatives. Now, there's a few other methods, I should say. There's anacron and cron. The thing about, cron is cron will not make up for missed tasks that were supposed to be run. So let's just say, for example, we'll give some examples here, that you would like your system to take a snapshot backup every Monday at 2 a.m. because you run your computer all the time. It stays on 24/7, and 2 a.m. is just a good time because in general you're asleep and you're not using the system, and so just say go ahead and do it. Or maybe you have a server and 2 a.m. is good because there's not that much traffic to your service or website or whatever. But anyway, going back to desktop usage. So let's say, though, that it's 2 a.m. on Monday is when it's scheduled, and you're using cron, and then you turn your computer off Sunday night because something happened. Maybe there was a power issue, or you're like, I'm leaving town and I'm not going to be here for a few days, so I'm just going to shut my computer off. And then you turn it back on, say, Monday morning at 10, or you get back in town on Tuesday or Wednesday and you turn it on. If you're using something like cron, that's it. It's not going to run. It will have just been a missed event. But something like SystemD will say, if you tell it to, you don't have to, but I've given you the setup to do this. SystemD will go, oh, I missed that event on Monday at 2 a.m. It is now Wednesday at 5 p.m., because you got back in town, turned on your system, and it says, I need to run that. Now, based on how it's scheduled, SystemD won't necessarily run it like immediately. It might wait 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 8 minutes. There are ways you can help better influence that. But for our CYA, it's fine. I just have it set up so it'll execute it probably within about 15 minutes of being started up. It might, again, take it 3 minutes or 5 minutes and then do it. Now, SystemD has a lot of moving parts to it, which is some of the criticism. This is not an in-depth look at SystemD. This is not even how you totally use SystemD. I'm only going to discuss the parts of SystemD that are relevant to CYA. There's a lot of things you can do with SystemD. It's a very versatile, very robust system. But let's take a look at it. So SystemD, though, has some files that you need to set up. They're actually pretty straightforward. Now, I'm going to switch to the directory where I have unzipped the CYA files that came off of GitHub. You may have renamed this directory, you may have moved it, but for me, I have put that in my users downloads directory, CYA-master. And you could always go back to GitHub and download those again. That'd be github.com/cleverwise/CYA. So let's ls this, and you'll see here we have a directory called SystemD and a directory called wrapper. We'll get to wrapper in a moment. SystemD, though, is where we're going to find the SystemD files. So let's go into the SystemD directory and ls that. Now there's two files here. We see CYA.service and CYA.timer. The way SystemD works is the command side of a function, like the actual command that's going to be run and who owns that command, are set in a service file. If you want to schedule something, you set that in a timer file. Now, I suggest you keep the names the same as you see here, CYA.service, CYA.timer, but they don't have to be the same. However, if you change names, you then have to reference in the timer file what the service file name is. So if you're going, what? The easiest thing is just keep the names the same. So if you had backup.service, just make it backup.timer. Or if you had Dell backup.service, then have it Dell backup.timer. That's just the easiest way to do it. It is changeable, though, just letting you know that much. It is changeable. So the first thing I recommend is, even though you can re-extract the zip or something, I recommend you make a backup of each one. So I'm going to backup service, and we'll put just BCK on it, and then I'm going to make a backup of the timer file. And that way, when I ls it, we now have a CYA.service, CYA.service BCK, and then a CYA.timer and a CYA.timer.bck. That's just for backup. So I can restore those files without having to go unzip them or re-extract it. Well, re-extract the file or files from the zip again. So what we need to do is we need to edit those files. Now, I'm not going to keep saying this. I'm only going to say this right now. I'm going to use VI. If you don't like VI, use Nano, use Emacs, or you can do some of this through a GUI text editor like Pluma or gedit or something like that. But I'm going to use VI, and I'm going to keep mentioning VI. I'm just going to use VI. So substitute your own editor for whatever you want to use. We're going to VI CYA.service file. Now, when we do that, we see some information, some sort of directives, if you will. Now, there's a lot more than this. This is a very bare bones to get the information that we need to run the CYA system, but you can set up a lot more. You can set up all kinds of things, like how much CPU is able to be used, and etc. I'm not going to get into it. You may go look on the internet for more extensive information. In fact, I've done something with a channel called Easy Linux, where I created a class with Joe Collins there on SystemD. So the first thing we see here is the unit section, and we have description, run CYA. You can put whatever you want here. And in fact, if you create multiple system files, unit files, you're probably going to want to change that name. We'll get into that in a little bit, though, one thing at a time. Next, we have the service area. We're going to execute this as a root user. The group will be, well, the user will be root, and the group will be root. So this is where you could change. But in this case, we want root to be the owner, so that way, for sudo purposes, we don't have to enter in a password of any type or set up a passwordless sudo user. So it's just easier to execute this as root, which makes sense. It's a backup, and you really need root permissions to back up files. But this is where you would specify other users if for some reason you really have a use case where you don't want it, or maybe you want it to run as whatever. But we're going to use this as user equals root, group equals root. Type is one shot, which simply means it's telling SystemD, look, run this and exit. Don't keep this going. There are other types that will, for example, if you're running a mail server, web server, you don't want the type one shot. You want it to stay running. But in this case, we're just going to execute the command and close it out. That's all, which for this utility makes sense. Then we have Exec Start, which this is going to be the start or run command, if you will. There's also Exec Stop, but we don't have a stop command because CYA is not an ongoing process. It just goes and then exits out when it's done. So this is the stop. Now, here's something we will have to change. We have to enter in, well, this first part, let me just highlight this. This has to be the full path of the CYA program. Now, user is not my user in this case, so I need to change this to my username developer. But if you've installed this, well, your user will probably be different from a developer, I mean, almost guaranteed. However, if you installed CYA, say, on a server and it's in /user/local/bin, you would need to change this to reflect /usr/local/bin CYA. But I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to go down here and highlight this, even though it don't matter, but still I'm going to remove user here, and I'm going to insert developer because that's where I have installed the CYA program. Now next is the command save. So we're going to issue the save command in this case. If you were thinking, I don't want that, instead I want to issue a different command, you could say keep name, say my backup, and then say you turn on overwrite, and then this would overwrite that and keep running it. Or you could say, no, I want to make an archive, so we're going to insert archive here and run that, and then we'd enter in archive. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to have it issue save. So when you've updated, then you need to save your changes to this file, and I'm going to do so. So that is now done. So we've now updated the command to point to the correct place. Now if we ls this, though, we need to work on the timer file. Because see, the timer file is going to call the service file. So let's go ahead and look at the timer file. Now, I will say more than likely you probably don't need to edit this. Well, back up for a moment. If you want us to run weekly, like every week, then you don't need to edit this. This is set, you can see here the description, run every week, run CYA every week, on calendar equals weekly, persistent true, that means if it's missed, it will find and it will go, oh, I missed this. And then we have the target, the multi-user target, which I would just leave that alone. If you want to look at more research, you're able to do so on what else you can add into this file. These are very bare bones files, but they cause it to work the way it needs to work. But if you want to add more in here, be my guest. If you want this to run monthly, you could then insert monthly, and you could do it that way. Or you could insert, say, I want this to run daily, and you could have it run daily. So, or you could have this run at certain times throughout the day. Now, I'm going to just issue weekly because that's most likely what you're going to want to do. Well, I'm not even going to save this. I suggest you run this once a week so you don't even have to touch this file if you don't want to. You may leave that alone. But now we need to install this. This is not installed. So we actually have to set this up so that it will run. See, because right now if I type in SystemD control, sorry, it's not SystemD, it's system control CTL, and I type in, say, status CYA, you'll see I don't get anything. There's no such thing. And if I type in, say, timer, I don't get anything either. It's just not found. So we need to set this up. Now, you will have to have sudo permissions because we have to put this, there's a few different ways. You could specify the full path to both, but I'm just going to go to this directory to make things easier. So I'm going to go to cd / etc or etc / systemd / system. And then if I ls this, you'll see here we have some systemd unit file, well, directories. So what I'm going to do here, well, and files, what I'm going to do here is I need to copy the CYA.service and the CYA.timer into this directory. So I'm going to go ahead here, and I need to use sudo because I'm got to copy. This is all owned by root. I'll show you this. These are owned by root, so you have to have sudo access. So I'm going to sudo cp, and I'm going to copy from my downloads directory, my CYA master, systemd, because that's where the files are, remember, and I'm going to copy the service file, and I want to copy that, say, here. So now I have to enter in my sudo password, and if I ls this now, we have a service file here. And I'm going to do the same, only I'm going to now copy the timer file. And if I ls this, you'll see here I have my CYA.service and CYA.timer. Now let's ls this. And you see here that we see here the time and date stamp, and we see here that we have our permissions set up. But I think that for best, I like to go ahead personally and change these so that these are readable and executable, which you need to have. And you should change this to say, see, if we look at this service file here, let's go ahead and let's ls this right here and see what, for example, what the system has done so that you may see in how this works. So let's ls all this, just get all commands. And you see here that they have rw/rr, which actually is what this has done. So actually you can just go ahead and leave that. Why not? You don't have to change that. Okay, so now the next thing that we need to do is we need to enable this, though. So the command to enable this is simply, we will have to type sudo space systemctl control enable. Now we want to enable the CYA.timer file because the timer file will call the service file. So I'm going to then enable the CYA.timer file. So it's sudo space systemctl space enable space CYA.timer. Hit enter. You'll see here we get create the link. Now we're going to issue system control again. Start CYA.timer again. So you issue the sudo space systemctl for control enable CYA.timer and then do the same thing with the start function. Now if we do, well, let's do sudo system control status CYA.timer, we see here that it is active and loaded. So that's it. And you see here started run every week. And that's all you do. You're done. If that's all you want, you're finished. You've set this up. You can see here it's loaded and active. It's waiting because it hasn't run. You'll see here that run Monday at 10. And then you can see here, this is when it was run. So that's it. Now, there's a few things, though, because, A, I want to show this running for you, and we also need to talk about multiple as well as a wrapper. So, first of all, let's talk about the wrapper. You might find that when this runs, it doesn't work right. If that is the case, you'll have to use the wrapper file. So let's go back to that directory in my user, and which is in the downloads, CYA master, and I'll clear this and ls this. You might have to use this wrapper file. You see, let's go into SystemD, ls. It should work. Let me vi the service file. It should work here. But you may find that this command is not working correctly. If that is the case, what you're going to need to do in certain systems, you might just find this, so just want to make you aware of this. What you need to do is this will need to call your wrapper file, and you would put this command inside the wrapper file. So what is the wrapper file? Go up one to directory, and if I ls this CYA-master, you see here we have wrapper. So if I go into wrapper, you'll see here we have a wrapper file. Now you only have this. In a previous video with the cron tab, I showed the monthly and weekly. So this is what you will have right here. You will have this file, well, trying to highlight it, the mouse in a virtual box machine doesn't always want to be spot on, but you will have CYA-cron, then you will have a period sh for shell. Now you will have to add in the actual command. So inside here, if I vi this, you would put in your command here. You would change this here, right here, your exec/home, and you'd put in, say, for me, I'd put in developer, and then I'd get rid of this part, I'd get rid of that part, and now that is the command that will run. If you want to have keep in here, say you want a manual, then you'd put in, well, you'd have to remove this. And then if you wanted to do the keep instead, you could say do my backup, say overwrite as an example, and you would save this somewhere. I'm going to not save that though. And then what happens is in the unit file of the service, so you'd go here, clear this, so then you would edit the CYA.service file, and you would put this right here to be whatever. You would say, let's say you put that as slash, well, hold on, maybe you put that as, say, /home/developer /task /CYA cron.sh or something like that. And then that would become the task that you would run. Whatever you named it, you can name it and put it wherever you want. But you see, so the service file is calling the wrapper file, which is actually running CYA itself. Now, I don't think that's necessary on most systems, at least most major desktop systems. It's not necessary on your Ubuntu Mate and systems like that, but there may be cases where that is. Now, I'm not going to save that. I'm just going to ignore that. Now, we have scheduled this weekly, but let's say you want to have a weekly job, but you also want to have a monthly job, or maybe you want to have a daily job. Well, that's pretty easy. All you would do is you would simply copy this file right here, this timer file, and the service file, and you would just repeat the process. So you would say copy, say service, and say maybe call this service, say monthly dot service, and then you copy, say timer, and you call this, say CYA dash monthly slash timer. And what you do then is you would, I don't need sudo, you would just edit this CYA monthly dot timer file, and you would change this from say weekly to say monthly. Well, it helps if you spell it right. And then you would say I save this out, and now I just simply repeat the process by copying that in. For example, here I'll just do it. So let's cd into etc systemd system. And so then I would need to use sudo. I would copy, then downloads CYA-master systemd, and then I'd copy monthly. And I'm just going to copy both into this directory. So with one command, well, I should clear this. So what I did here is I did monthly or CYA-monthly, and I put the asterisk so that it will copy both of them. And then if we ls here, I'll just do both. You'll see that now we have monthly as well. So then I would need to enable this. So if I do this, I would simply do sudo space system control. Then I would enable CYA-monthly timer. Then I would do sudo control system / control enable monthly or start / time. Well, it'd be sudo space system control space start space CYA-monthly / timer. And now if I do sudo, I could do sudo system control space status CYA-monthly, and we see, well, okay, it's loaded and active. So one of the things is you need to go actually edit the actual command too, which I failed to do. So let's go back there and fix that real quick. Go back into my downloads, and we'll go back to systemd. And ls is clear, and what we need to do here is I need to edit monthly -service because I don't remember the command. Yeah, so I did save. So let's say here actually I didn't want that because we don't want that. We want to keep name, say monthly. So we'll call, well, insert mode, and we'll say call this say monthly instead. Keep doing that. So we'll call that monthly, and then we'll put overwrite here so that now we have our overwrite command. So now you can see here that we're going to issue keep name monthly overwrite. I didn't do that before. So now let me go back to that systemd system etc /systemd /system, as you can see here, and I need to update that. So I'm going to sudo cp. I failed to do that the first time around, so I'm correcting that. I did not change the command. Instead, we just changed just the timer. So I have to change the command and the timer file, which I did not do. So what we're going to do here is do CYA monthly .service, and we're going to copy that here. So now we will have our update, and just to show you, we'll have to use sudo because now it's owned by root. So I'm going to show this monthly file so that you're able to, this monthly .service file, so you can see here we did change it right there. So now what I need to do is I need to then simply refresh this, so which is sudo system control daemon reload, if I recall right. Yep, okay. So now let's sudo system control CYA monthly. Oh, I forgot the timer. Gotta put .timer here. And I seem to be misspelling something here. Let's do an ls on this. So it is CYA monthly .timer. Yeah, so why am I not able to get... Oh, I did not type status. I'm sorry. So let's clear that. I forgot to type status. Getting ahead of myself here. Monthly. Oh, let's see. System. So it's sudo system control status. Sorry. I was leaving off that status. Then it's CYA-monthly, then timer. And now it's active. whereas it wasn't active before. I forgot to change the command, so it was going, wait a minute, you already have a command. Anyway, so now you can see we have this active, and if I do the same thing on and I do this on CYA, we have both of them. So this one is running every week. This one says every week, but we'd probably want to edit that to every month. So let's do that. Let's just do that here. So let's reference that just to show you making some changes. So we're going to edit the timer file. And this is set every month, but this says every week. So let's say this changes to every month. So all I did is I sudo vi'd that, and I'm going to write this out. So now I need to do sudo system control and then do daemon, wait, was it? Yeah, daemon reload. And now if I sudo status, you can see here this monthly says every week. Now we change that to every month. So let's do system control space status and then CYA monthly dot timer. And now it was supposed to pick that up. That is odd. I believe I edited the correct file. Did I not? Let's see real quick. A little bit of troubleshooting in the video, which I'll just leave because this is not bad to show. Oh, sudo vi. I sometimes do that. Forget to type my editor in there. Yeah, monthly. Okay. And it says run this every month. Yep. Okay. And let's quickly do the same thing for monthly.service. I probably have it. No, I have it there. Okay, good. So now let's do a sudo system control daemon reload, and then do clear this and do a system control, sudo system control status CYA monthly dot timer. It's not picking it up. I mean, I know how to do it to ultimately force. It's a little odd. I could do this, disable CYA monthly dot timer. It should pick it up on the reload, but it did not. So we'll do it this way. Occasionally that happens, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. So I'm just simply issuing this again, and let's see the status on this. For some reason, oh, I know why. Okay, I know exactly why. It's because when it ran, it printed this out. See, it hasn't run yet. It actually was running the first time. If I issue a stop start, watch, it will do it. So if I issue stop, and then I issue start, and now I do a system control status CYA monthly timer, then we get every monthly. Well, probably want to say every month, not every monthly, but that's what happens. I'm typing this in and talking, kind of teaching here in essence, so make little errors like that, which is fine. So anyway, that's how you do that. Now, let me show you this in action. If I type in CYA list, you'll see here that what our current list is. So let me do one thing here and change this. Well, I'm going to go ahead and disable this. So let's just go ahead and say I don't want monthly anymore. So you do sudo space system control, then you would do stop. We're going to get rid of the monthly. So we type in CYA-monthly timer. Then I'm going to do sudo control disable CYA-monthly timer. So we've totally disabled that. And in fact, if I do a system control sudo space system control status CYA-monthly timer, you'll see here it's inactive. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear this. I'm going to do sudo rm, and what I'm going to do here is monthly with the wildcard. So now we no longer have the monthly there. Now what I want to do though to show this running is I'm going to change this, which I don't recommend you do, to run every minute so that we are able to see this. So I am going to sudo vi edit this timer here, and instead of weekly I want to put in, I'm going to put in, let's see, the wildcard, and then I'm going to make this run every minute. So what this is going to say is it's going to say start at the 0 block and run every minute. If this was /5, it'd run every 5 minutes. Or you could start it at a different minute. You could start at the 2 minute or whatever. So now I need to sudo system control. I'm going to do a daemon reload because I made a change on a unit file. Oh. And I need to actually tell it to load the CYA.timer file. That helps. Oh, wait. no, I did do that. I just need to do a status on that. I apologize. I am getting ahead. I keep getting ahead of myself here. So now it says changed on disk. I did issue a reload, but it should. Let's issue that one more time. I did do that. It just printed that out, but let's just to be extra thorough. Okay. So now, and it's probably still going to, okay, there, it picked it up. I did that, but occasionally it doesn't do that. So anyway, it's sudo space system control space daemon reload. Oh, I did load, not reload. Well, starting to make a little errors. Oh well. I'm thinking ahead and not paying attention to what I'm typing, which happens, folks. Because I know it's reload. I keep doing that. Okay, so let's type in CYA's list. And you'll see here, let's get a time. So the time is 13:39. And so you'll see here that we have 1:39 because that's what that is. And so now when we get the time, you'll notice here, this one's going to go from 10 o'clock to 1:40. So watch when we cross the threshold of the second. So we're going to cross the threshold. There, we have crossed the threshold. Now watch, this number, the 2 one here is going to go to 1.40. So I'm going to clear this, run CYA list. Well, okay, didn't quite catch it there. It should. Just give it a moment. Sometimes there's a slight delay. I have noticed that. CYA list. Still waiting for it to load. Come on, it should do it any moment. I've noticed that about SystemD, which some people don't like, is it's not always directly on that one target. So as far as the time can be varied just a little bit. I mean, there are ways to control that. You can tell it to be more accurate by some of the commands, but in general backup, we don't really care if it's a few minutes this way or the next. So there, see now it has 1:40 and 34 seconds. Because see, it ran it a little bit later. It wasn't quite a minute. It went a minute and a half, roughly, probably, the times it ran it. And you can say, oh, what's having to do a backup? Well, these files, it shouldn't have to be moving anything. I mean, yeah, technically it could take a backup of 5 or 10 or minutes or so, depending on how much data it's backing up. But there's really not much to rsync here. It's really just running these. But you see it did run it. So, and you'll see here, this one now, number 3, will become 1:41 and some odd seconds. So just for the sake of thoroughness, I'm going to, see, we'll clear this. Have we gone to 1? Yes, we have. So let's then run this. See, this one has not quite changed. It's still 10 colon, then 1 minute. So it's 1 minute after 10. Let's see here. Yeah, it's probably run it somewhere around now. See, now it's gone to 1:41 and 34 seconds. So now it's kind of getting in a groove, maybe. But I've noticed SystemD can vary by a few seconds. Again, there are commands you can put in to change that, but that's really SystemD. It's not that difficult. I know I threw a lot of information, but in general, all you need to do is put it. Most users will use the weekly command. So all you have to do is just simply change the path. Well, here, let's go to back to my user. Okay, and then SystemD. Clear this. So really, mostly what you just need to do is just change the service file right here, the CYA.service file, to match your wherever you've installed it. Then you simply copy it into the directory etc systemd, then system. You copy these 2 files, and then you simply type in sudo. Then you type in sudo system control enable CYA.timer, and then you would type in start CYA.timer, and that's it. That's all you have to do. You're done. So I showed you a lot more information just in case you want to get a little bit more advanced with it. That's SystemD, and I'll see you in the next video.